My husband's sister shattered my entire world in an instant. For years, I had learned to overcome the haunting memories of a childhood filled with violence and addiction, so that I could smile and gently say, "I don't drink." But then at what seemed like an innocent party, the person I trusted most turned that old wound into a cheap joke. Just one small sip was enough to unleash the panic I had spent a lifetime trying to bury. And the worst part wasn't the burning taste of alcohol on my lips. It was the cruel laughter that echoed endlessly in my mind. I grew up in a home where the heavy scent of alcohol hung thicker in the air than love. Long, sleepless nights filled with the sounds of smashing, shouting, and fear clung to my childhood like a shadow that never left. While other kids laughed and played under the glow of Christmas lights, I hid under the table, trembling, praying for my parents' violent drunkenness to pass. I made a vow to myself if I could ever escape that past, I would never let alcohol rule my life again. At 20, I became the guardian of my younger brother, the same little boy I used to clutch tightly against me. On those chaotic nights, I promised him a home, a life we never had peaceful, safe, and free from fear. To keep that promise, I forced myself to be strong, to heal old wounds, and to never let them open again. I spent years in therapy, learning how to manage the terror that rose up when I saw a glass of alcohol at a party or heard the clinking of toasts among friends. I learned how to smile, how to gently decline each offer with a simple, "Thank you, I don't drink." And I was proud of how far I had come when I met my husband, a gentle, understanding man I truly believed the past was behind me. He didn't just love me, he helped me build a real home for my little brother. His family welcomed me with open arms. My in-laws treated me like their own daughter, and my sister-in-law, someone I will never forget, seemed at first warm and close. For the first time, I believed I truly had a new family. Every month, my sister-in-law and husband hosted small gatherings with their old friends. I always attended, bringing my soft smile, a glass of orange juice in hand, and a deep sense of gratitude that I could stand in a room full of celebration without shaking at the scent of alcohol. Never did I imagine that this would be the place where years of hard-won healing would be cruelly shattered. Never did I think that family would be the first to rip open old scars and laugh at them. When I walked into that party that night, I thought it would be just another peaceful evening. I didn't know that in just a few seconds, a heartless and thoughtless act would break everything apart. A glass of orange juice seemingly harmless, but laced with a betrayal I never saw coming. I remember that moment so vividly, the icy chill that ran down my spine, the instant the familiar hated taste of alcohol touched my tongue. I immediately spat out the entire mouthful, my trembling hands clutching the glass tightly as my mind spun in a dizzying surge of old memories. I whipped around, staring at my sister-in-law, hoping desperately, hoping for an apology, maybe some explanation that it was all a mistake. But instead I saw her and two of her friends doubled over in laughter, clutching their stomachs like they had just witnessed the most hilarious spectacle. Confused, I asked, "What's going on?" Through fits of uncontrollable laughter, she casually said, "We just wanted to see how you'd react if you drank alcohol." It was hilarious. You should have seen your face. I froze, every inch of me locking up. That answer, the intentionality behind it, felt like a cold knife, stabbing straight into the fragile trust I had given them. Without another word, I set the glass down on the table, turned around, and left the party. My steps faltered, the world around me collapsing into a blur. The once lively atmosphere full of laughter now felt suffocating. It was as if I had been stripped bare in front of a crowd exposed vulnerable and desperately alone. I don't even remember how I managed to drive home. All I can recall is the sheer willpower it took not to fall apart right there on the road, to keep the broken pieces inside me from exploding into full-blown panic. And when I finally stepped inside our home, all that effort shattered into desperate sobs. I collapsed onto the floor, clutching my chest, crying like a lost child abandoned in the dark. My husband and my little brother came home shortly after. The moment he saw me, my husband's face shifted instantly into pure, intense worry. I had never let him see me this broken before. I had always tried so hard to build a peaceful, safe home for my little brother, a place without tears, without pain. And yet, because of one cruel prank, Everything I had fought to protect was crumbling before my eyes. After I settled my brother down with his favorite cartoon movie, I sat down and between choked sobs told my husband everything that had happened. I will never forget the look in his eyes, heartbreak and fury so fierce that his knuckles turned white from clenching his fists. He didn't say much. He just told me gently to stay with my brother and rest, then grabbed his phone and walked outside. I heard him scream into the phone for the first time ever. Not just anger, but raw, furious anguish, poured out in every word, sharp and cutting like knives hurled at the sister he had once loved so dearly. When he finally returned nearly an hour later, he sat down beside me, took my hand in his, and said in a low, firm voice, "We will never go through that again. I promise." And then he pulled me into his arms, shielding the bleeding pieces of my heart as if he could somehow keep them safe. The next day we decided to tell my in-laws everything. I was terrified. I feared that speaking up would break the bond I had with them. After all, she was their daughter. But I had underestimated them. They listened to the entire story, and when I finished, I saw tears well up in my mother-in-law's eyes. "We're so sorry," she whispered. "No one has the right to hurt you like that. No one—" I broke down crying again, but this time not from pain. This time because for the first time in so many years, I felt truly protected. I felt loved. I thought it would end there. That my husband's anger, my in-laws' disappointment, and the pain in my heart would be the final chapter of it all. But deep inside there was still a part of me, the part softened by years of trying to please others, that whispered, I should give my sister-in-law a chance. I didn't want hatred. I didn't want the wound to keep festering. After many conversations with my husband and my therapist, I decided I would reach out first, not to forgive and not to soothe her ego, but to protect myself, to voice my pain clearly and firmly, and to close that door to the past with my own hands. So, I sent my sister-in-law a short, polite message. "I would like to invite you to lunch so we can talk openly about what happened. I hope we can understand each other better." And then I waited 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. No response. Just a heavy, cold silence stretching endlessly like an unhealed wound. Meanwhile, a few of my husband's friends who had been at the party reached out to us. They apologized, saying they had no idea about the prank beforehand. They told us that after I left, they immediately confronted my sister-in-law, and none of them agreed with what she had done. I knew they were sincere. And somehow that brought a little comfort to my heart. Just as I was starting to accept that I would never receive an apology, everything suddenly spiraled out of control. One night, my husband's phone kept lighting up with a flood of messages. It was from his sister. The words that poured from the screen felt like whips lashing straight into my heart. "It's not my fault your wife is so weak she's scared of a little champagne. I never liked her. I wish you had stayed with your high school girlfriend instead of picking up 2 orphans to make a family. You're a fool doing charity out of pity." I sat there frozen reading those messages, not because of what she said about me. I had long since learned not to let other people's cruelty define my worth, but because of my brother. The little brother I had protected and shielded with my whole life was now being used as a weapon to hurt me. To her, a child who had lost both parents wasn't a tragedy that needed understanding. It was just a punchline to mock. My husband immediately blocked her number, and her husband's too. He sent only one final text. "I no longer have a sister. Don't ever contact my family again." The next day, we showed all the messages to my in-laws. I was afraid they might try to defend their daughter, but they didn't. Their faces turned pale as they read each bitter, venomous word. There were no excuses left to make. We failed to raise her right. My father-in-law said, his voice breaking, "But we will not let her hurt this family again." I sat there listening to them pledge to protect peace, to stand with those who knew how to love and respect one another. And for the first time in my life, I realized blood isn't always more important than kindness. I lifted my head high, wiping away the tears. I knew that even if I lost some people, I was holding on to the most precious things of all: self-respect, peace, and a true family. That seemingly unrelenting tension eventually led us to an unexpected decision instead of mourning our losses. Why not create new, more beautiful memories? Because if life has taught me anything, it's this pain is not the end. It's simply a turning point toward braver beginnings. One evening, as my husband, younger brother, and I sat together, we made a pact from now on every second Saturday of the month. The day that used to be reserved for noisy cookouts with friends would become family day. A day truly dedicated to those who love and cherish each other, with no alcohol, no lavish parties, just genuine presence. My husband suggested that each month a different family member could choose the activity, one time a picnic, another time baking at home, or simply a cozy movie night with pillows and popcorn. When I saw my younger brother, a child who had known more pain than any child ever should eagerly list off dozens of ideas for our first family day, I knew we had made the right choice. To outsiders, this decision might seem small, even trivial. But to me, it symbolized something powerful, taking back control. I refused to stay trapped in sadness or anger over people who didn't deserve that space in my heart. I chose to turn toward the light, even though the darkness was still there. In the days that followed, I could feel the change inside me. I no longer woke up with that vague, haunting fear. I no longer questioned what I had done wrong to become the target of someone else's cruelty. Somehow, knowing I had done everything I could, that I had reached out before finally letting go, gave me a profound sense of peace. During later therapy sessions, my psychologist and I revisited the whole story. She said something I'll never forget. Not everyone deserves an explanation, and your kindness should never be a reason for someone to hurt you again. It took me years to learn how to set boundaries, and now I know protecting myself is not selfish. It's the only way I can continue to be the sister, wife, and daughter-in-law my loved ones can count on. Sometimes I still think about my sister-in-law not with hatred, but with a quiet sadness. I feel sorry for her, for the beautiful relationships she destroyed with her own selfishness and cruelty. But I also understand growing up sometimes means accepting that not everyone wants to change, and it is not our job to save them all. Every time I sit beside my brother and hear his bright, carefree laughter during a movie, or when my husband silently reaches for my hand on a peaceful evening, I silently thank that painful moment because it was that very shock that made us treasure one another even more, holding on tighter through the ordinary quiet days. Pain once cut into me like a sharp knife, but now that scar no longer bleeds. It stands as a mark of strength proof that I walked through the storm and chose love over hatred. And in my small world, that is the most beautiful victory of all life. After that turning point never returned to what it used to be. But in some ways it became even more beautiful. No more forced gatherings. No more pretending to be happy in an environment that could hurt me at any given moment. Now with each passing month, we create new memories built on simple, genuine love. My younger brother, who once believed the world held no place for safety, now giggles freely as he flies a kite across an open field. My husband, who had always quietly protected me, can now live freely without having to maintain toxic relationships under the weight of family expectations. And me, after everything I learned, the most valuable lesson of all. Sometimes letting go isn't a failure. It's the most courageous act of protecting your dignity and peace. The emotional wounds from my childhood, the long nights spent in a house thick with the stench of alcohol and fear, didn't magically disappear just because I grew up. They still linger woven into each breath, into moments of vulnerability, but this experience showed me something crucial. I am no longer that helpless little girl. I have the right to say no. I have the right to walk away from those who dismiss my pain. My sister-in-law, who chose to react with the cruelest words she could muster, only confirmed for me that some people are simply not worth any more of my love. And somehow, instead of hurting me further, that realization strengthened my belief in my own worth. In one of my recent therapy sessions, my therapist asked me, if you could say one thing to the little girl inside you, the one who used to tremble in fear at the drunken chaos around her, what would you say? I thought about it for a long time. And finally, I smiled and answered, "You are safe now. You never needed to apologize for existing, and you deserve to be loved exactly as you are. Atheist heart, that is also the message I want to send to anyone out there who has carried silent pain, who has ever wondered if they were being too sensitive, too fragile for feeling hurt. You are not weak. You are human, and the fact that you feel pain is proof that your heart still knows how to love. Today, I choose to slow down. I spend time with those who truly value me. I build a home where laughter and understanding matter more than appearances or social expectations, and I no longer seek validation from those who cannot see my worth. If someone reading this finds themselves in a similar situation, I want you to know you have the right to walk away from relationships that hurt you, even if those people share your blood. You have the right to put your mental health and happiness above all else, and you have the right to rewrite your life story with strength, self-respect, and unconditional love for yourself. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this, no matter what storms come, I will never be alone again. Because beside me are people who choose love over harm, and within me now stands an unshakable belief. I deserve peace. I deserve happiness. If you have ever been hurt by the people you trusted most, please remember this. Your pain does not define you. You are not weak for feeling hurt. You are not selfish for choosing to protect yourself. And you never have to apologize for placing your peace above toxic relationships. Sometimes our kindness cannot save those who are unwilling to change, but that kindness can always save us by leading us away from places that no longer deserve us. You have the right to choose love, safety, and people who truly value you. Trust me, on the other side of the pain, there is a life of peace waiting for you, a life you have long deserved. And no matter how difficult the journey may be, you will never truly walk it alone, because those who bravely choose healing are always walking a beautiful path. The story ends here. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, share, and subscribe to support us in creating more videos. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, and see you next time.